Call to order the meeting of the Greenwood Common Council on Monday evening, July the 18th. Before we get to the pledge and our normal opening, I think it would be appropriate in light of the events in our city in the last 24 hours. And we'll give each council member time later to say something, but for right now, I just want us to be sure we keep in prayer the families of Pedro and Marie Pinata and also the Victor Gomez, the victims in last night's shooting. It's a tragedy that affects all of us, that affects our city. And I would appreciate everybody's prayer. And also just want to, the names were released this afternoon, and Elisha Dickin, the young man who was brave enough to move toward the shooter at the time and do what he had to do to protect those that were there and to neutralize the situation. It's a tragedy. I feel for the families of the victims and also for Elisha in that he has to live with this. He's seems to be, would appear to be a good individual who had no intentions of ever killing anyone, but last night was put in a situation where he felt like he needed to. And so let's keep all of them in our prayers. And we do thank Elisha for his bravery and hope that you know, things will go well with him and God will watch over him. So, and the families of the victims as well. And also, I do think that our first responders did a tremendous job and did what they had to do. The news conference this afternoon said the time from when the first shot was fired to the time that the shooter was neutralized was just 2 minutes. And no police officer could have arrived during that period of time, and no telling how many more people would have lost their lives if Elisha had not been there to do what he did. So I just thank God for his watch over the people who were there, and pray that we would keep all of these families of the victims in our prayers. At this time, I'm going to ask you to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and please remain standing. After the pledge, will be led in prayer this evening by Ron Perot, a deacon at Our Lady of Greenwood Church. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear good and gracious God, we are grateful for the city of Greenwood and all who work and serve in our community, especially our first responders. We ask you to be with all the members of the Greenwood Common Council and give them the wisdom to discern what is right and just, to serve in the best interest of the citizens of Greenwood. Our hearts ache with sorrow for the innocent people who died in the tragedy that occurred yesterday at Greenwood Park Mall. Please console family members and friends who've lost loved ones and provide healing for those who are injured or are suffering from mental anguish. We are grateful to all the first responders and for the courage of the Good Samaritan, Elisha Dickin, whose action stopped the violence. Please help him heal from the trauma of the event. We ask you to restore peace in our community and help each of us to bring peace into the world by acting with love as St. Francis prayed. Lord, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. Where there is sadness, joy. O divine Master, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, and it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Roll call. Present.
Campbell,
Here.
Foster,
Here.
Gibson, here, Hill, Butler,
Present.
Lexi,
Here.
Middleton,
Here.
and Williams.
Here. We do have a quorum, and just for the record, 8 of us are here in person. Mr. Hopper is attending the meeting virtually this evening. All of you should have received copies of the minutes from our regular meeting of July the 6th. I do have a motion. Motion by Mr. Foster, is that correct?
Second by Mr. Foster.
Alexi, second by Mr. Foster. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, then roll call on the minutes.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill, Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
and Williams.
Aye. Minutes are approved on a vote of 9-0. Reports, Corporation Council.
You should have received 2 item reports, the item semi-monthly and also the semi-annual report on the SharePoint, and also the updated floor plan report with the status of all those claims. And should you have questions about any of those, please contact me. I'd be happy to discuss them with you.
All right, anything from the controller at this time?
The financial statements are on the website. If you have questions, please contact.
All right, committee board reports, all of you were sent a copy of my RDC report for the last RDC meeting. Sent out this afternoon, so if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Any other committee or board reports?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the regular scheduled meeting of the Plan Commission met last Monday, a week ago. There's a number of items that we discussed. One was Holy Springs landscape waiver, approved unanimously. Arlington Farms parking waivers, approved unanimously. Arlington Farms change in commitments was approved unanimously. And then the North Emerson rezone was also approved unanimously, and that's before us tonight in our agenda.
All right. Any other committee or board reports? Seeing none, then moving on, this is the time we set aside for public comments. So if you're here tonight, we wish to address an issue that is on tonight's agenda, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. And as stated on the agenda, there is a 5-minute time limit per individual and a 20-minute time limit per topic. Anyone?
Yeah, my name is Dwight Howard, and I'm a 3rd-generation owner of 318 North Emerson Avenue, and I'm here to talk about the ordinance 22-18. Tonight, I want to take a different approach than we did with UC, and that I want to talk about an issue that has become a very serious and sincere issue, and that is the public safety of people that live on Emerson Avenue and the people that live in the addition behind me, Maple Grove. According to the U.S. Department of Transportation, on average, there are 1.88 vehicles per U.S. household. When Emerson Avenue was widened from 2 to 5 lanes back in 2003, the daily commitment of vehicles to Emerson Avenue was a total of 360, 184 from Maple Grove and 176 from Country Air Addition. Since 2003, development has stepped up tremendously on the 1.9 stretch of North Emerson Avenue, and no improvements have been made to Emerson Avenue. Instead, the city decided to detract from the original design of the 5-lane road in 2018. Mr. Lee Money, who was a former president of the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission, stated to the Planning Commission Monday night, and I appreciate his honesty, and I quote, that the development of Emerson Avenue was designed and planned to specifically handle traffic volumes much higher than what it currently has. The center turn lane is designed to handle large amounts of traffic. Okay, and that just verifies what we've been saying all along about the public safety on Emerson Avenue. Now, I'm a little upset that Mr. Money has not been down evidently Emerson Avenue 4 years. Because in 2018, the center lane was taken out. I'm quoting from a September 11, 2018 article that appeared in the Daily Journal. The city of Greenwood is rebuilding Emerson Avenue between Main Street and County Line Road. The center turn lane was replaced with grass and concrete median, and the road was repaved. Since the removal of the center two lane in 2018, the city of Greenwood has rapidly increased the daily commitments of vehicles to North Emerson Avenue. Now, the last time I was unaware, I'll admit that I did not know about the development called Hangar. Right now, we are only feeling the effects of the bird, which is 180 units for a total of 338 vehicles. But the city has already committed to the development called Hangar, which is 218 units or 410 vehicles. Just in those two alone, it's a commitment of 748 vehicles to Emerson Avenue on a daily basis. The only way in, the only way out is Emerson Avenue. The proposal that you're proposing for Oliver Springs, next door to my house, we're talking 236 units, which is 444 vehicles. If you add those three apartment complexes up, you're talking 634 units for a total of 1,192 vehicles committed to Emerson Avenue on a daily basis. And I'm asking, how can you justify the commitment of 1,100 vehicles to Emerson Avenue with no improvements? In 2018, we took away the original design of Emerson Avenue, and nothing has been done to rectify it. You know, we've got a very serious situation out there. Also, I also did a, like on the density. I did a study on the density, and I'll give them credit on this project.
Mr. Howard, you have 1 minute.
We did get the density down to 14.72, but that in comparison to the 66 acres, which is 3.15, we're still 4.7 times the density of the 60 acres to the south. I did a survey on from County Line Road to Main Street. We're looking at approximately 1.9 miles. Do you realize that there are 172 businesses that feed into Emerson Avenue? Out of the 172, I broke them down at 68 businesses feed directly into Emerson Avenue. 104 businesses have another way to exit plus Emerson Avenue. For example, on the east side, you've got American Industrial Corp, Alpha Labelle, McDonald's, Mike's Car Wash. They all have Main Street as an escape, but they do feed into Emerson Avenue. On the west side, you've got
Thank you, but your time is up. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time?
Hi, my name's Jenny Boltman. My mom and I are residents at 948 Maple Grove Drive. My parents have lived for 30 years. It's put something behind her now. It's just, it could be villas like where they live. It would be fine. I mean, we have coyotes on the runway. We watch them. We watch the guys from the airport take care of them and put them in animal control. They take them and replace them. We watch deer jump over those fences. We have raccoons, we have wildlife. I mean, I know that it's changed, but I just want to say that they could put villas back there instead of apartments. It would be more acceptable because of the current situation in our world. And unfortunately, as someone that lived in apartments myself as a young woman, you just can't control the eviction notices and the things that people go. They just, the young man that did what he did yesterday, I'm from Columbus, Indiana, and Elisha will never be the same. And we just need to, we want people to have good living. I get that, but I know that they want that 12-month lease. I know it's a money thing, but it just has to be thought through and respectful to the residents that have been in that area all my adult life. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the council at this time?
Evening. My name's Elizabeth Carney and my husband Billy is out with our little one. And we would like to say no to the apartments as well. We live at 211 Black Maple Court. We are concerned about the traffic on Emerson getting in and out. It's already very difficult to even turn north on Emerson now. I cannot imagine having all of these apartments and extra vehicles. And then we're also concerned about the safety, just with having the extra number of people. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name's Lois Stark. I live at 970 Maple Grove Drive, and I'm just worried about the traffic. I mean, I was almost hit the other morning. This guy didn't even have his lights on, and I took a double look, and I almost got hit, and that was early in the morning. I'm also concerned about the easement. Where is this going to start with the apartments? Because my backyard is small, and I just don't want to live around apartments. That's why I chose this. I lived in Greenwood all my life. I say no to apartments. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Anna Olave at 994 Silver Gable Court in Greenwood. I also am concerned about the traffic. I'm concerned about the density. Where I live now, we're proposing to put 10-unit apartments with 10 garages in a space that currently contains 2 people, my husband and myself, and my neighbor who is 1 person. That's just one of however many, 6 10-unit apartment buildings here. And the barrier that you're talking about, right now, there is a beautiful natural barrier that contains many mature trees. I don't know how tall they are, 100 feet. And I would like to know if they intend to remove that natural barrier so they can put up shrubs and grass. I've lived there since 2003, and I've watched the traffic increase on Emerson, not only by sight, but by noise. And I've seen there's only one way in and one way out. Same entrance and exit to our neighborhood. So although that's nice because we don't have people cutting through our neighborhood, it does increase the problem of us being able to get in and out of our neighborhood in a timely manner and in a safe manner. I do appreciate that the first development was modified, and I believe it could be further modified. I don't see how this is going to be a long-lasting effect. Our neighborhood has been there 40 years. Who knows how long the apartments will be there? And we were reminded at the last planning commission meeting that there are lots of businesses that will still be built. There's lots of land that will be occupied by businesses. And so we're in for even more traffic. So I would respectfully request that another look be taken before this final step and this final project be approved. Because in my mind, progress does not mean some people have to suffer for the sake of others to make money. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sandra Beheimer, and I live at 972 Maple Grove Drive. I spoke before at the last meeting. I'm still concerned about the traffic and everything that everyone has said about it. I noticed that leaving in the dark, it's even more dangerous. There's some people that don't turn on the car lights, so lately, I found that I have to be extra careful when I want to go north. I'm also concerned about the easement back behind my property. I have a shed that is located right back behind of my backyard. I have a fence up, and I don't know how close this property is going to come to mine. But I hope that if they do decide to approve it, that there would be plenty of room for that easement to be set up. And if there is going to be large trees planted so that they don't have to look at my yard and I don't have to look at theirs. I want to tell you, I respect government here at Greenwood, and I love our community. It's been very important as far as my life to live in Greenwood and to enjoy. And I always tell my friends and my family about Greenwood and what a good place it is. We have a wonderful neighborhood. There's never been any trouble there. That's not saying that there won't be. Good neighbors. We watch out for each other. We make sure that there's a lady across the street. She's in a nursing home right now, but we kind of kept an eye on her and sharing our food with her. But there's many people there on the neighborhood that love it there. So I hope you will really think about all of this. We would certainly appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. Randy Good, 1157 People Park Boulevard, South Greenwood, Indiana, 46143. Also speaking on behalf of 2218. And I want to speak more to the citizens than anyone. And I speak from experience. I live right next door to a gas station that was built, 10 years after I built my home, not knowing it was coming. That property was zoned C2, not industrial. Right now, the property that is in question, if I'm not mistaken, is zoned industrial. Meaning there's nothing to stop them from putting a stamping plant, a forging plant, any type of manufacturing plant that fits within the bounds of what can be developed there from being built for the same 40 people. I know apartments are not something we always want. We want houses. I get that. I want them down by me. I can't get them there either. It's tough. It really is. But I just want to remind you, as a person who's already been down this, be careful what we turn down, because it really could. I promise you, you could have a 12-month gas station right next door to you, operating 24 hours a day, 40 feet from the side of your house. So just keep that in mind. I've seen their plans. They're going to present them to you. But I just want to speak. I am not going to say I support or oppose this, but I just want you to just be aware it could be a whole lot worse. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Lee Money. I do in fact represent one of the landowners in the proposed project on Emerson Avenue. But I also want to clarify the remarks that were made to the Planning Commission last Monday and suggest they may not have been accurately represented by Mr. Howard here this evening. I was in fact president of Greenwood. I had the honor of being the president of the Greenwood Redevelopment Commission at the time that Emerson Avenue was approved. And at that time, a number of considerations were taken into account by the redevelopment commission and the city planners and those building the roads. One of those considerations was in fact the opportunity to increase traffic on Emerson Avenue, to make it safe for development, to make it appropriate for development, and to make it large enough for development. And I'm confident that that was accomplished in the original and even the improvements made to Emerson Avenue. I will tell you that at the time, the redevelopment commission was relatively young. And it did not have the resources that the redevelopment commission has now. But one of the considerations was whether or not to put a median in there or not. And quite frankly, I will tell you, it was a cost element at the time. It's my understanding that the city later, when the funds were available, determined that it was in fact safer to put the grass median and the limited turns on Emerson Avenue. That did not decrease the ability of Emerson Avenue to handle a significant amount of traffic, including the traffic that was planned for the development along the Emerson Avenue corridor. That road was designed exactly to do what it is doing now, to accommodate all the growth that's available on either side of Emerson Avenue, including apartments, including larger businesses, including the commercial businesses that are now on the north end and now extend further to the south. So to the extent that anyone believes that Emerson Avenue was not designed to handle the traffic it is now, and quite frankly, a significant amount of traffic more than is on it now, I just want to clarify that from a historic perspective. I believe the road is safer with the grass median. I think the city thinks it's safer with the grass median. And quite frankly, had we had the money at the time, the grass median would have been installed at the time the road was first widened. Middle turn lanes are dangerous. They increase accidents. The turns to and from the multiple right and left turns across Emerson Avenue weren't as safe as they could have been had we been able to develop the medians originally. So to the extent Mr. Howard suggested that the grass medians were somehow compromising the ability of Emerson Avenue to handle the traffic that it's designed for, including the development that's proposed now. I just want to make sure that everyone understood that it's not my opinion then, it's not my opinion now. And I believe that the traffic on Emerson Avenue is in fact designed to handle that, the increased traffic, not only from this development, but future developments. Thank you.
All right, thank you. There's about 2 minutes left and a 20-minute time limit on this topic. So if anyone else would like to address the council at this time concerning that, if not, if you're here for another reason, would like to address the council, now is your opportunity. I'm sorry, 5 minutes per person. All right, any other issue before that you'd like to address the council about? If not, moving on to ordinances and resolutions, notice of intent to consider ordinance number 2218.
An ordinance to amend the official zoning map adopted by reference and unified development ordinance number 20-29, proposed rezoning of approximately 16 acres located at 374 North Emerson Avenue, sponsored by Bates.
Do I have a motion? Motion, Mr. Alexi. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, by Mr. Foster. Any discussion on the council? Comments, questions? Mr. Nelson, would you like to speak to us?
Yes, I do. I'm assuming you guys have all seen the staff report that was sent out earlier this week that accompanied the plan commission favorable recommendation of this site. With this site, they did address many of the concerns that the neighbors to the south had. One of the things I'd like to note is they did put in a large 40-foot buffer to the south side of the development. This area will be landscaped. I know they're, you can just answer some of the questions there, considering putting berming or possibly a fence there to help buffer the area. That is a large buffer. They're only required by our ordinance to put a small buffer there, so they're kind of going above and beyond. A lot of comments were made about traffic tonight. This road is designed to carry traffic. There was a traffic study done for the apartments before these were proposed. They had 342 units. This development only has 236 units. The traffic study was reviewed by our city engineer. They found the traffic study to be acceptable for the higher number of units. So we've even come down from that number. I do want to say this is currently industrial large, as we all know. There are a variety of traffic intensive uses that could currently go there. Just to give an example of some uses, I took some notes. There could be a truck stop, boarding or kenneling, vehicle care services, vehicular impound, equipment repair, warehouse, manufacturing, and power generation facility. This is a zoning step down. We have industrial large to the north. This is a transitional zone that's being proposed here. It is not single family homes or a vacant field. It's not going to compete with the density of the vacant field. It is a development, and the traffic study has said that it is an acceptable use for this site.
The zoning on the property north of this, is that industrial, is that correct?
Correct. It is industrial large. We have two different industrial zones. Industrial large is the higher intensity of Q. It is what is to the north and what this property currently is.
Any questions?
Yes, I have one. Mr. Nelson, I was talking with you and Mr. St. John's today, and you gave some information regarding the capacity and the number of cars per lane. Could you make the rest of the council aware of that information?
Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to full mark. Time has passed since then. I do know that these lanes, this is an arterial road that is designed to carry traffic. The improvements here did not warrant any lights at intersections. There were some minor intersection improvements that were made, but those were present in the traffic study with or without this development. This development is not what triggered any of those. With this development, we'll obviously look at the XL, decel lanes going into the development, and if those are deemed necessary, this development would have to install those as part of their improvements.
Any other questions or comments on the council? All right. If there's no other comments on the council, then.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes, Mr. Hopper.
I do have something. Do we need to make a motion to amend to incorporate some of the buffer and things that they promised? If we do, I'm happy to make that motion. I've never seen the Garrett companies put any vinyl on anything, but I would also move to include a vinyl prohibition on any of the buildings as well. So.
All right. Mr. Hopper's making a motion to amend ordinance 2218 to prohibit vinyl, and what was the other one?
Incorporate the promises they made at the planning commission. I believe he said there was an extended buffer that was going to go in there. I don't know if that's, yeah.
All right, so we have a motion by Mr. Hopper to amend ordinance 2218 to exclude the use of vinyl on any of the buildings and to include the commitments that promises they made at the plan commission meeting as part of the ordinance. Do you have a second? Second by Mr. Lexi. So we have a motion to amend by Mr. Hopper, second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on the motion to amend ordinance 2218?
Mr. President, I have a question that I'd like to ask the Garrett representative. I thought I understood him to say at the planning commission meeting that they were going to do a fence. And so if that's the case, then I wonder if we need to add that modification too.
We are planning.
in addition to the buffers, we're looking at burning, landscaping, and replanting the fence of the property.
All right, so Mr. Hopper, is that agreeable to you to include the?
Happy-
of the
yeah,
fence on the
happy to
south
include
side?
those as well.
Is that just on the south
Yes, sir.
side?
It would be all around.
Sorry,
It would be all around.
all the way around on the perimeter. All right, so motion has been amended. Is that okay with you, Mr. Lexi? Motion's been amended to include a perimeter fence around the development in addition to the 40-foot buffer and the no vinyl commitment. All right, thank you. Any other discussion on the amendment to ordinance 2218?
Can we get a commitment on the berm? Added to this, if they're gonna commit to the berm?
Yeah, you mentioned the berm, correct?
I did.
On the south side of the property, I believe that the Greenwood standards require 38 feet from the property line to the sidewalk. I think we have 31 feet. So if we do provide a berm, we may request a variance in how that's constructed.
Okay. All right,
I would propose an amendment then for a 10-foot berm added to the south side of the property.
all right, so we'll add to the amendment Mr. Hopper made, the inclusion of a berm on the south side of the property. And anything else while we're at it?
What's the height of the berm?
10-foot.
Sorry?
10-foot.
The
The Greenwood
10-foot
standards
berm?
are 6 feet, and I'm not sure, we would have to figure out how to fit that within the 40-something feet that we built.
Mr. Hopper, it's your,
Mr. Hopper made the motion, so I don't know if Mr. Williams can amend his motion.
Yeah.
Suggestion was, so Mr. Hopper, you're. making
Mr.
a
Hopper,
motion
would you like to amend
Yeah.
it to include a 10-foot berm
On the south side.
on the south side?
This is on the south side of the property. All right. And
Yeah.
I can't see obviously who's
the
there. Who,
standard berm is, you said 6 feet
6 foot, right?
per our ordinance.
And the issue you think we're having a 10-foot has to do with the 31-foot setback and not a
The issue
40-foot?
The issue with the Greenwood standards of a 6-foot berm require 38 feet, and I believe we have 31 feet.
In the information regarding buffer yards, it said mounds or berms may be substituted for perimeter buffing yards. Mounds or berms shall be a minimum height of 6 feet, a minimum crown width of 2 feet, and a side slope not greater than 3 feet horizontal to 1 foot vertical. I think when we get
What's the fence gonna be made out of? What is it? Is it a 6-foot privacy fence that's going around? Is it a decorative?
He's
Yeah.
asking about the fence. Is
What's the
privacy
point of a
fence
10-foot
or
berm
house
if you're
wall?
putting a,
The fence that we would typically propose would be like what we have around the Verge product. It's a 6-foot fence. It's not a privacy fence. And it's meant to keep people and vehicles out of the property
Okay.
and provide security.
Did you hear that, Mr. Hopper?
I did. Mike, can we compromise on an 8-foot berm? Cause I don't know anybody that's taller than 8 feet who could look over the top of the berm. I mean, 10 foot, 6 foot, if you want to look over, you're gonna get a ladder and look over, I guess, but
Well, it's your amendment, so you can make it whatever you want.
let's make it 8 feet.
All right. So now the motion to amend ordinance 2218 is to include a perimeter fence that has been described, a berm of 8 feet, and what was the other one?
No vinyl.
Yeah, no vinyl. I believe that was all. We have, that is a second. Any further discussion on the current motion to amend ordinance 2218?
May I ask another question to Garrett, please?
Sure.
In the renditions that you showed at the planning commission, I don't believe there was any vinyl on those.
There's no vinyl on any of the
So
products.
I just want everyone to know that that's not something that we're forcing them to change their initial project. was with the cement board or.
Thank you. All right, anything else?
I did say, Linda, I've never seen them use vinyl, so, yeah.
All right, any other discussion on the council?
I do have one final question for Garrett. I apologize.
Yes.
Just inquiring, will Garrett be holding on to this property? Will it be sold off this year?
Will it be sold?
Mhm.
I probably could not answer that at this time. So, right, depending on market conditions and it's the day before we even start design, it'd be very difficult to forecast.
All right, any further discussion on the council or questions?
Mr. Campbell, I have a comment, but it's over the ordinance as a whole, not the amendment. Would you rather vote on the amendment? and then-
Yeah, let's vote on the amendment. All right, any further discussion on the amendment? Hearing none, then roll call on the amendment to ordinance 2218.
Bates,
Aye.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill. Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi. Middleton
Aye.
and Williams.
Aye.
Ordinance 2218 is amended on a vote of 9-0. Any further discussion on ordinance 2218 as amended?
Mr. President. So the last time we had a residential development to the dismay of some, I discussed public safety, staffing versus population. I still hold that it's pretty clear that our population is growing much faster than we can keep up with public safety. It's not growing at the same rate. As far as developments are concerned, part of the meet and confer that Mr. Lex and Mr. Hopper and myself were on, they provide us with some information on residential developments that are under construction or planned. And just kind of a breakdown of that is, right now we have 5 housing developments under construction with 666 planned houses, and then another 8 planned with over 1,700. When we're looking at apartments, we have 2 or 3, 4 with over 1,000 units under construction right now, and then another 3 planned with over 1,000, almost 1,100 units. So looking at that alone, if you just average about 2 people per, we're talking close to 9,000 people that we're adding right there. So staying consistent with what I've said before, this is an absolute increase to population, regardless of how you look at it. And until we can start to get that increase in staffing up for our public safety, I don't see why we inorganically add to our population by rezoning to add more apartments.
All right. Any other comments on the council? Thank you.
I would like to make a comment. I know that Mr. Howard, as he puts it, is willing to roll the dice and see what happens with industrial development. But I would just like to share the reason for the vote that I'm going to have this evening. And I think Mr. Nelson can verify this. There is a development on Airport Expressway that Mr. Jim Sack has done, and he has done everything to make the living conditions most uncomfortable for the doubles that are along there, and to the point of the vacancies that are on the west side of his first building. He has put very noisy businesses in there. He's made sure that there's plenty of headlight that interrupts the households. It's just, it has been a nightmare for those people. And I think that as much as you dislike it, I think that you could really wind up with something that would be much worse. So that's the reason for my vote this evening.
Any other comments on the council? Thank you, Ms. Gibson. All right, hearing none, then roll call on ordinance 2218 as amended.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill. Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Nay.
Williams,
Nay.
Bates,
Aye.
Ordinance 2218 passes on a vote of 7-2. Thank you. There's none under first reading, second reading, resolution 2212.
A resolution of the Common Council of the City of Greenwood, Indiana, approving the issuance of the city's stormwater district revenue bonds and the execution thereof, sponsored by Bates and Gibson.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Ms. Gibson, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Foster. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call. Resolution 2212, second reading.
Foster,
Aye.
Gibson,
Aye.
Hill. Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Aye.
Williams,
Aye.
Bates,
Aye.
and Campbell.
Aye. Resolution 2212 passes second reading 9-0. Resolution 2213.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing. Becknell Industrial, Worcester Road, Building 1, sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Lexi. Any discussion from the council? Mr. Sherman, you want, since
Yes, I'm,
13 and 14 go together, we'll assume all your comments apply to them.
thank you. Matt Harris is with me here. Party comes from CPAs. Pat Sherman, also Gary Hopkins is here. He's the Senior Vice President of Investments and Development for Becknell. We determined here, we spoke last time about 250,000 square foot buildings that are on this properties along the railroad tracks just to the east of Ingerson Hauser. Becknell has been a great partner with the city. Milwaukee Tool is one of their buildings that they have that are similar to that same building. This is 150,000 square foot each of these buildings, which lends itself to that type of tenant. I was trying to get Christian Glansky with the flyer here to speak on the size of the building and how important these buildings are to the economic development of our city as far as getting these types of tenants that we're looking at that have the wage amounts that we're looking for. So I'm here with Matt and there's answer to any questions you may have on this project. There's a total of about between the two buildings, over $40 million investment in our city. So we have to answer any questions.
All right, any questions for Mr. Sherman at this time? All right, thank you. Any discussion on the council or comments? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2213, second reading.
Gibson. Aye. Hill. Hopper,
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Nay.
Williams,
Nay.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
and Foster.
Aye.
Resolution 2213 passes second reading 6-3. Resolution 2214.
A resolution declaring certain area within the city of Greenwood an economic revitalization area and qualifying certain real property improvements for tax abatement and setting the time and place for a public hearing.
Have a motion.
Becknell Industrial, Worcester Road, Building 2, sponsored by Campbell and Hopper.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Foster, second. Mr. Lexi. Any discussion on the council? Hearing none, then roll call, resolution 2214. Second reading.
Hill. Hopper.
Aye.
Lexi,
Aye.
Middleton,
Nay.
Williams,
Nay.
Bates,
Nay.
Campbell,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
and Gibson.
Aye.
Resolution 2214 passes second reading with a vote of 6-3. Thank you, gentlemen. New business, introduction of new ordinances and resolutions. Ordinance number 2219.
An ordinance amending ordinance 9346 and chapter 3, article 1, section 318 of the Greenwood Municipal Code 1993 as amended to amend the form for all ordinances of a general and permanent nature, in which we amend the Greenwood Municipal Code and to adopt a resolution form sponsored by Campbell.
I want to talk about this. I can explain it. I think. I was approached by our corporation council. Our current ordinances, as you all know, require each counselor to sign them, whether you voted for or against. This ordinance, and by ordinance, the ordinances, by ordinance, our ordinances have this form. It's set by ordinance. Our resolutions, apparently we do not have an ordinance stating the form of the resolution, but they have followed the form of our ordinances. This ordinance 2219 would set the form for both ordinances and resolutions. The change, though, would be that the only signatures that would be required would be those of the city clerk, the presiding officer at the council meeting, and the mayor. There'd be no longer a need for each individual counselor to sign these forms. So, for example, tonight, Mr. Hopper's not here. None of the ordinances go into effect until they're signed. And so it just expedites things, makes it a little easier. But will be your all's choice in a couple weeks when we start voting on this. So just so you'll know, that's what it's about. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
I have a question for Ms. Coons. With the way that we do it now, we can tell what or someone reviewing those documents at a later time, they can tell what the vote was, if it was, a split vote or just what. So would we then put a copy of the minutes with those so that we would have that record?
Statute only requires that an ordinance or resolution be signed by the presiding officer and then presented to the mayor by the clerk, so you know the date and time presented, because he has 10 days to either approve it or veto it, so you know if you need to override it. And then the statute requires that the clerk keep it in a record book. There is no requirement that you keep track of, whether somebody supported it or voted for or against it. Your minutes would reflect that, and someone could always pull the minutes from the meeting where it was passed. Or it's your form, so you can put anything in it you like. Without signatures, you could, if you wanted to have a section where it has passed by the common council by a vote of 5 ayes and list people's name, and 4 names and list names, if you want it on the face of it, but it wouldn't require a signature. It's whatever you would like.
I think that your recommendation or your thought on that would be good, because quite often people go back and look and they're trying to get a feel for what's happened. So if we don't have something there, they don't pass, that they don't know if it was a strong pass or if it was one that was a split vote. So I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I would like to have an indication on there that would say what the content of the vote was.
I think the recommendation with just
Then what we'll do is we'll ask the city attorney to.
Well, you've introduced it, so at first,
Yeah,
we
so
can certainly amend it.
Yeah, we can amend it at our next meeting. And if you wouldn't mind drawing up an amendment.
For clarification, are you talking about just showing the final tally or
No,
showing
I think.
each individual vote?
I think it's cumbersome if the person that's looking for something then has to go find the minutes and find out what that was. So I would like there to be a
Right,
list and know what that vote
Yeah,
was.
we could,
But my question is, are you trying to just get a tally of the vote by 4 or each individual vote?
I would like to see each
I would
individual.
too.
And
I
then
just want to make sure we're on the same
Yes.
page.
I think that historical information is important.
I agree.
it would not require a signature.
Yeah, I agree. I just didn't know if you were shooting for the.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Shooting for the specific.
Yes.
I think the recommendation from council is perfect. With the
Yeah.
list of names, rise and things.
Yeah, sounds good.
Modify
Appreciate it.
that first, please. I will, I'll have it ready for the next meeting if you want to act on that.
All right, any other discussion on ordinance 2219? Seeing none, then miscellaneous business. First item is, this is the second opportunity for members of the audience to address the council, this time concerning items that are not on tonight's agenda. So if you would like to do so, please step forward to the podium, state your name and address for the record. All right, seeing none, then moving on, any miscellaneous business from the council?
Mr. President, you said that each of us can
Yes.
have an opportunity.
Yes, thank you for reminding me. I was gonna set aside, if either of you would like to make a comment concerning the events of the weekend or say something, this would be an appropriate time to do so.
I myself would just like to commend our local police agency, but also show or express our appreciation to all of the surrounding agencies that quickly came to the scene and helped with the processing of things. I'm very proud of how it was handled. I'm very thankful for the young man that was able to deactivate the shooter. And I think that we have a lot to be thankful for. And we hear about other shootings and how wrong they've gone. And the Uvalde in Texas, that just seems like it gets worse and worse. And I just couldn't be prouder of our police department and the way that they handle things.
Any other comments?
I would also commend the mayor. I watched the press conference today at 2 p.m. and I thought the mayor and the chief of police conducted themselves very well during that press conferences. And I thought they made Greenwood look good.
I agree.
It's a shame what happened yesterday. I'd also like to thank the Simon Property Group for also always being a good neighbor, a good taxpayer, a good citizen of the city of Greenwood, bringing a lot of commerce to our area. It is the gateway from the north. And I appreciate everything Simon's done for the community over the years.
Anyone else? I think we all agree that it was a tragedy, and I was at the press conference today, and I agree with Mr. Lexi. Our mayor and the chief of police, Chief Isom, did a great job. I really appreciate the way he handled himself, handled the questions, conducted himself, and I agree. It makes us proud of Greenwood and what, in a difficult situation, I thought he rose to the occasion to handle it very well. So, all right, anything else? Any from Corporation Council?
No, sir.
Any from Controller?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.